So how do you determine someone is who they say they are while you're on a call with them? That's the $25 million question on this glass of OJ. This one's an interesting one because this issue is not necessarily a cybersecurity issue. It is just classic social engineering, but with AI deepfakes. So a multinational company in Hong Kong, China, just gave away $25.6 million to criminals who convinced a finance worker of that company to remit those payments. I think there were about 15 payments, but that it totaled all up to $25.6 million US. I think it was about $300 million Hong Kong. And early on, it was mid-February, received an email. Early on, he had doubts. This request seems odd. This isn't normal, but was communicating back, trying to get more information. It was later that week that he jumped on a meeting with the CFO, among others. And there were other officers of the company that were on that call too. And they actually asked him, like, hey, introduce yourself, which is kind of normally what corporations do when they don't know who you are, or you're kind of meeting the EVPs for the first time or the CEO for the first time. Hey, introduce yourself. Who are you? Well, and then they kind of just keep it short and basically just talk about doing this secretly, and we're going to do a process that's not normal. We just need you to issue these 15 transactions. But because he had met with the CFO and some other officers that he recognized, he felt confident in doing that. And their CFO is in UK. He's in Hong Kong, and this was just interesting in that he would know what the CFO looks like. He would even know what he sounds like. Probably has seen him in town halls, seen videos of him. So you would know who this is. And he said it was completely convincing. This is, looked exactly like him. It sounded exactly like him. The other officers he recognized, they looked and sounded exactly like they thought they should be. And so that gave him the confidence that even though this was an unusual request, that he should be able to do it nonetheless. And, one of the things that we oftentimes do, and this is why this is kind of a concern for me and why I'm bringing it to you, is we a lot of times encourage people to, do a video call or a voice call, especially with someone who's asking you to remit payments. It could be, hey, our bank account information's changed. We're one of your suppliers, or we're a customer of yours, and our bank information has changed. We need you to go ahead and change the banking information in your databases. And then, the next payment you remit goes to a criminal's bank account rather than your supplier's bank account. So, and then you wind up, the supplier says, hey, you haven't paid your invoice in a month. What's up? And so that happens. But normally what we say is whenever you see any kind of change to this kind of information, pick up the phone and call. The problem here is that a user might be led to believe that they just had that call. The CFO called you or, invited you to a meeting. And so that has that kind of shroud of legitimacy. The other thing, too, is to think about, different companies culture different levels of criticism and scrutiny on requests. Sometimes you have processes that are very robust, that involve many levels of approval, depending on, dollar amounts. The higher the dollar amount, the more approvals that are needed, not just from you, your manager, the comptroller, the CFO themselves, and on and on and on. Maybe even the CEO, right? Depending on the dollar amount, it may require that level of oversight to make sure that we are not involved in a scam. Some level of that was not involved here. This person was able to use some method to get these payments out anyway. And certainly a $25 million payment would probably trigger some process, but they may have, gotten down to a certain dollar amount that wouldn't trigger some of these things. Maybe this employee has more unilateral remission or remittance capabilities. So that's something to look into. These single transactions may not be the problem. It may be several little transactions, maybe even several little transactions over time. But this was at the same time. But I'm just saying, like this attack could have gone very differently. They could have looked for little transactions over time that may have been overlooked. Month closing, it may not have come up to the top of the register of things to really worry about. I don't know. The other thing to think about is different country cultures have differences in the way they view their superiors, their elders, to the point where sometimes you can get a situation where someone's asking you to do something, you don't question it. You just carry it out. And we can't have that. In business today, especially, you really cannot have that. You have to be able to question. You have to be able to throw a red flag and say, I really think this is not okay. I need to find some way to strengthen, the authenticity of this request. And maybe that's the way it gets framed in the culture so that it doesn't get seen as a rejection or disobedience, but rather as a, yes, I'm going to do that. And as part of that, I'm also going to make sure this is really a truly legitimate request from this person. Which got me thinking, still, what you should be able to do in this case, much like, if someone's calling you from, for instance, your bank or the Social Security Administration or the IRS saying, oh, so-and-so's coming to your house right now to repossess your car, or they're going to arrest you for non-payment of taxes. If you don't pay right now, that the sheriffs are going to come and arrest you. Those calls happen. People get those calls. And it'll even say like IRS or your bank. And you answer the phone and you think you're talking to those people. No deepfake needed there because you don't know anybody at the bank probably. So no deepfake needed. You're just going to get on that phone call. What we normally tell people is hang up the phone and call that entity up, whether it's the IRS, Social Security, your bank, a company, somebody. You call them directly, not via the number they just called you on, but by a number you can look up on the internet, on the back of your bank card, on the back of your statement. Like, look up your latest bank statement, look at that phone number and call that number and say, hey, is this a normal request you people call and make of us? They'll tell you, no, that's not a normal request. Please feel free to disregard that, or can you tell us more information? We would like to track that somehow. And so that's the way you would do it. I would suggest the same thing is also possible here. In this company, again, we don't know the name of this company. This company would probably do well with some kind of policy or process where if you are being called to a meeting to discuss some kind of operation or action like this, you need to hang up and you need to call either your manager, you need to call the CFO directly, or whoever was on that meeting. You need to call them directly via the approved corporate channels, whether that's Teams or Google or whatever type of chat or IM functions that you use. You need to be able to work with, reach out and work with them on, again, more of an authenticated basis there. Again, if your CFO answers the phone call and says, I don't know who you are and I never make requests like these, well, then you know that something's wrong and you need to bring this up to probably to your finance team as well as cybersecurity department for them to investigate further and help. I'm also wondering, is there a way, and I don't think there's a way to do this today, but I'm wondering what kinds of changes folks like Google, Microsoft, and Zoom and others can do to try and strengthen the authenticity of who's online with you. If I'm on the phone with somebody and they're starting to tell me something really weird, or maybe this is a TLP red kind of situation. Maybe I want to authenticate everybody on the call, or maybe just the one person I'm on a call with. If we're both authenticated using Microsoft Entra, for instance, should I, as an authenticated user, be able to say, I want this person to authenticate themselves right now? So I'm going to put in a request. This person goes through and does an authentication. So they get an email, or they get some kind of notice that says, so-and-so is requesting you to authenticate right now for social reasons. Yep, I recognize that, and I'm going to enter in my PIN, or maybe it's the number challenge that Microsoft does now, and I think Google does another one, the number selector. And then a message comes back to you as the requester saying, yep, this person just did that authentication. They are indeed the real person. And again, because you use the legitimate app to make that request, it makes it really hard for the attacker to get in the middle of that. If you're using the legitimate app. Now, they may say, hey, you can use this link to authenticate me. No, don't trust that. So that will be another issue, right? They'll say, you can use this link. Oh, don't forget, there's this link. We should authenticate each other right now. And of course, they're going to come back and say they're authentic. But I have to imagine there has to be some way to set up some kind of authentication like that to beat deepfakes. I'm also imagining there's going to be some more UI changes to meeting software. Not only to, on the back end, detect potential deepfakes. At some point, AI is going to have to try and figure out, does this look like AI? Does this look like deepfakes? What's going to be the false positive rate on that? So that could sow discord and confusion. But I think more interestingly is just simply, marking and saying, by the way, this meeting is external to your organization. You have a Teams or a Google or a Zoom that is, within your corporate account. You're on a non-corporate meeting. This meeting is not being run by or has participants that aren't from your corporation. Microsoft does that today to an extent. If you look off to your participant list, it'll show who is external to your organization on there. If the CFO is coming up external to your organization in such a call, you should probably hang up and figure out what's going on, because they should never be external. You also should never be external. So if you're seeing that you are not part of the organization in some way, you should not be. I think those are more subtle, though, and I think what should probably happen is more of a UI way of saying, warning, you are in a non-company setting right now. Just so you know, that should throw off red flags to users to say, wait a minute, if this is my CFO, if this is my company, my team, why are we on a non-company instance? Why are we, in this situation? The only time we should probably in that situation is if there's an incident and there's out-of-band communications, right? Those will involve a different system. So, but otherwise, when things are just operating normally, you shouldn't be using a separate, external to you meeting software or environment. And again, this largely isn't a cybersecurity issue. It is still social engineering. It is still confidence games that scammers are playing on people. And so really it still comes down to good processes and good ways of, giving authenticity to requests as well as authorization to actions. Regardless of what technology is at play here, you still have to have a process. You still have to have that process. You have to have good policy, and you have to have good training. So this is where, good awareness training can help, especially geared specifically to the finance folks. But this will really go outside of finance, right? Imagine a deepfake that seeks to cause confusion in Microsoft when they have, 11,000 layoffs, right, of people. Imagine deepfakes sending messages out to Microsoft users to say, hi, you're no longer with the company. Please get on this meeting right now, and we'll go over your package, or we'll go over your exit interview. And then there's a deep fake of just somebody, maybe someone you know from Microsoft, maybe not, but they're there looking like a regular normal person, essentially walking you through the script, and just kind of bouncing you back to just, hey, you're leaving, and we're locking your account, or we're doing whatever. Please just go ahead and turn off your laptop and send it back to us. That could cause a lot of havoc, because at some point, there will be users who just go, well, okay, I guess so. And they'll just turn off their laptop, pack it up, send it back. Now they can't work for potentially a week or two, until you discover what's going on and call them on their personal cell and say, hey, why haven't you been into work? You fired me. Not really. But imagine all the other different kinds of interesting deepfakes that could happen. Imagine the types of deepfakes in a research and development situation where they want you to discuss what IP is involved here. Maybe even as a software developer, hey, how are we solving the issue around measuring this, or determining whether something is this or not this? Where are we at on that? And making it look like they're the architect that's been presenting at Microsoft or AWS or any of the other big conferences out there, and have deepfake them. I can imagine deepfakes like that, where you would need to make a culture of authentication around these people to ensure that you are talking to who you expect to be talking to. But really, if someone's trying to, they always still seem to try and pull you in some way off the corporate comms. So that's still a red flag that exists. So if anybody's trying to pull you off of normal corporate comms, or trying to get you to go to Snapchat, WeChat, some other IM that isn't your company, or just trying to direct text message you, and those can be spoofed, of course, but trying to get you into a meeting software that your company doesn't typically use, they show as external call parties, hang up. Hang up, call the security department. There's nothing wrong, and you should really never get in trouble for trying to authenticate somebody and trying to make sure someone is who they say they are going to do. Now, at the same time, we shouldn't go and panic and make everyone prove who they are, but this is kind of a way for us to kind of examine what we're doing here and say, how do you authenticate somebody? How do we make sure someone is who they say they are? Again, people are working from home these days, and this is a global company, and so they have a CFO in the UK, a finance worker in Hong Kong. They've probably never seen each other in person. Maybe once the CFO came and talked to the finance folks there. But even with work from home, you could be in the same city, and maybe you've met your coworkers before, but a lot of times maybe you haven't. Maybe you've only seen them in meetings. Well, they can be deep faked, and it's to the point where you wouldn't be able to just get up from your desk, go over to that person and say, hey, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. So this is just another vector. It's another avenue that's coming in, and you should have a conversation. You have a conversation with your executive leadership. Have a conversation with your CFO. How would they handle this? And start walking through a scenario like this, and see how should we protect ourselves? How should we make sure that our employees feel comfortable challenging us to make sure that what we're doing and saying is actually what we're wanting to do? But what are your thoughts? Do you think this is going to be, AI, another example of AI is going to be the thing that ends all humanity? It's going to end the economy. Or do you think that perhaps this is just yet another technology that has the same issues we've always known about? We just need to come up with new versions of the same controls. Or maybe you have a different opinion. I'll catch you in the comments, and I'll catch you on social media. And I'll see you in the next one.